So, education panel. We've got 4 people who are joining the panel. Natalie Shearer, Dr. Sue Silveira, Jacqui Donnelly, and Cathie Wiltshire. We're going to start, each of them will come up and they'll talk to you for about 5 minutes and they'll just give you a little bit of an insight into who they are, what they're about, what they feel passionate about, what their drive is. Then we're going to get all 4 of them up, like we're on a TV show, and we're going to have a bit of a chat. I'll ask questions, you'll ask questions. They pretty much know each other, so you may get some good vibes from this panel. So first, I will introduce Natalie Shearer. Do we have Natalie in the room? Yes, okay. All right, good. I've got to introduce you. With over 20 years at the Department of Education, am I allowed to say that without getting in trouble? Natalie has worked across a range of roles. Currently, as the Inclusion and Disability Advisor, Natalie supports Department of Education vision teams to embed inclusive practices across New South Wales public schools, ensuring students who are blind or have low vision can access their schooling on the same basis as their similar aged peers. Natalie, take it away.
Okay, good morning. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Gadigal land today and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. I will be speaking with you today about the Department of Education's commitment to inclusive education within the context of students who are blind or have low vision. So the New South Wales Department of Education is committed to fostering inclusive education, and this commitment is grounded in departmental policy and key guiding documents. And I just have to remember to change my slides. Okay. Key government legislation such as the Disability Discrimination Act and the Disability Standards for Education underpin these policies. Together, that legislation and the policy make it clear that schools have a responsibility to ensure students can access and participate in education and schooling on the same basis as their similar aged peers. The Inclusive Education Statement marks the stage of the department's work to further embed inclusive practices across New South Wales public schools. The statement focuses on 6 principles of inclusive practice, which I will briefly discuss today. The department's itinerant support teacher vision service provides support to more than 500 students from kindergarten to year 12 across more than 350 public schools. It is for this reason that the principles of inclusive practice continue to be embedded in all schools to build a culture where every student feels supported and valued. So the first principle of inclusive practice is student agency and self-determination. So students who are blind or have low vision are taught a variety of ways to express their views from the moment that they start school. So this provides the foundation for self-advocacy skills and allows students to be more successful and confident in their skills and understanding their right to adjustments. In practice, this may look like a young student with low vision moving to a preferred position for optimum seating, through to students in high school collaborating with the learning and support team, teachers or vision teacher about adjustments, individualised adjustments for a particular subject. The second principle of inclusive practice is parent and carer inclusion. So in schools, it is essential that parents, school personnel and other professionals work together to identify the students' educational support needs and collaborate on how the school will provide adjustments to meet these needs. Planning and support for the student is ongoing and reviewed regularly by the school in consultation with parents. Sorry, I've just lost my spot. On how the school will provide the reasonable adjustments to meet the needs. The planning, which is often known as a review meeting, and in these meetings, we'll meet together to discuss the progress, identify areas of need, and set goals and set out the pathway to achieve them. This is documented and often referred to as a personalised learning and support plan, an individual education plan, or an individual learning plan. To further support the student agency and self-determination, we actively encourage this collaboration not only between the parents and the schools, but also the student themselves. The third principle of inclusive practice is social and cultural inclusion. So the department believes that diversity is a strength, not a barrier. We celebrate the different cultures, backgrounds, and abilities that make up our school communities, and we ensure that these values are reflected in everything that we do. Staff model inclusive language every day, showing respect for all students and treating those with disabilities as equal valued members of school communities. We strive to make sure that every student can take part in the full life of the school. Schools are supported to ensure that events such as celebrations, clubs, sports are adapted so that students with vision impairment and other disabilities can join in alongside their peers, strengthening connections. The fourth principle of inclusive practice is curriculum inclusion. In the context of students who are blind or have low vision, there are two fundamental areas for curriculum inclusion. The first area being access to preferred learning media. So itinerant support teachers' vision supports schools to ensure that learning materials and curriculum content is accessible. This may include producing content in Braille, tactile resources, audio or large print, and providing support for their use. For larger, more complex pieces, the Department of Education has Braille and large print services and a library where resources can be created, reproduced and borrowed in alternate formats. I'd just like to acknowledge at this point that we do have Kim Barber in the audience, if you'd like to give us a wave, who is the Manager of Braille and large print services for the Department of Education. The second area for curriculum inclusion is skill development. So vision support teachers explicitly teach skills to ensure that students can access all areas of the curriculum. Areas of skill development include Braille, technology, orientation mobility, social skills, compensatory skills, and self-determination. The fifth principle of inclusive practice is workforce capability. The Department of Education currently has 25 vision teams across the state, providing support to students who are blind or have low vision. In addition to being teachers, itinerant support teachers vision who work in these teams have postgraduate qualifications, a master's degree or similar, in supporting students who are blind or have low vision. One of the critical roles of the ISTV is to build the capacity of schools, learning support teams and teachers to ensure that the reasonable adjustments are implemented in all aspects of the student's schooling. In practice, an ISTV will provide ongoing professional learning to whole schools, executive staff, subject teachers and support teachers in understanding the student's vision needs and how to effectively adapt teaching strategies. This improves inclusive teaching and learning in schools, leading to increased curriculum access, independent and enhanced engagement. The sixth principle of inclusive practice is system inclusion. The department continues to work to ensure that inclusive practice is evident in classrooms, schools, school leadership, and across all staff who work in schools. The department supports building the evidence base of what works best to improve outcomes and strives for consistency of practice. For students who are blind or have low vision, system inclusion supports students and their parents or carers to prepare and navigate key transitions from early childhood to kindergarten, year 6 to year 7, and transitioning to post-school life. We incorporate best practice in infrastructure design in how to build and modify our school environments to ensure that the environments are inclusive for all. In summary, the principles of inclusive practice outline that students who are blind or have low vision deserve equitable opportunities to fully engage in their education. By embedding these principles into our classrooms and communities, we create environments where every learner's strengths are recognised and every student feels valued and supported. So that is just a super skim of the the principles for inclusive education. More than happy to answer any questions when the time comes, or speak to anybody after if they'd like a little bit more of in-depth information into the Vision Support Service and New South Wales Public Education. Thank you.
Thank you. And when everyone's done their bit, we'll sit them down and then we'll invite them to get themselves into trouble. Okay. Next. Dr. Sue Silveira has kind of done everybody's job in this room at some stage or other. She currently holds a conjoint academic position with Macquarie University and is the course director for the Master of Disability Studies, Macquarie School of Education, Faculty of Arts. She teaches in the areas of vision impairment and disability. Also, she's a senior research fellow with NextSense. She's the chief investigator on a project which has established the Australian Childhood Vision Impairment Register, which you talked about last year. So she's the reason we actually know how many VI kids we actually have in our country. Without Sue, we do not know it all, right? And co-investigator on projects related to Braille, developing playgrounds that are accessible for children with vision impairment, and family quality of life. Go for it, Sue.
Sounds awfully glamorous, doesn't it? But it's just a person that likes doing stuff with you people and is completely time poor as a result of it. But anyway, I would like to do a different acknowledgement this morning. I'd like to acknowledge those absolutely incredible, inspirational and outstanding speakers that we had this morning. Can we just have another round of applause? You guys are the reason we do this. And how much satisfaction do you give us when you come up and speak with passion and ambition and all the stuff that you gave us this morning. So thank you so much. We're really grateful that you're able to share that and grateful that you're showing us the incredible paths in front of you, which is what we need to hear all the time because we get tired of doing this. We get tired of fighting. So you're the reason we do it. So congratulations to all of you. And it's a big deal to stand up and talk in front of a bunch of people too. So well done. All righty. Seem to have jumped a few slides. So one of the things that I do, as Michael said, is I work for NextSense, which discovered this morning a lot of people don't know that organisation. So you might know the old Royal Institute for Deaf and Blind Children, which was located at North Rocks. And we've grown up and we're into adulthood now. We've changed our name. We've changed our location. So we're now on the campus of Macquarie University. And we're a service provider that offers services in blindness and low vision, but also in deafness, hard of hearing. And I'm very lucky that one of my jobs is to work in the education part of NextSense. So we run a large continuing professional education program that I'm sure a few people in the room have been to events that we hold. We also offer the Master of Disability Studies, which is a program that has a specific area to train teachers to become specialists in vision and education. So I've been asked to talk a little bit about that today and really account for how we embed inclusion throughout our program, and hopefully our graduates leave us with a really good idea of inclusion. And if you'll just humour me for one more minute, we've got a few of our graduates in the room. I'm wondering if you might, I won't embarrass you fully, maybe just put your hand up really high. So we've got a few people that can see. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 graduates in the room. So welcome and congratulations. So on the screen at the moment, I've got a slide at our joyful event, which is graduation. So these guys have got through the master's program. They're all gowned up in their funny graduation outfits, a bit like a Harry Potter movie, and we always take a photo of them throwing their trenches, which are those funny flat hats, Still don't know why we use those at graduation, but anyway, we do, and they're throwing them up into the air. So it's a really nice, joyful occasion. So that's some of our graduates. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. And the other thing I would say is, even though that looks completely joyous, to get to that point is enormous. So we know most of our students are aged between 41 and 60, so they're coming back to do tertiary study at that age. And if you think what your life was like then, you probably had, I was going to say hiccups, but children, and you would have also perhaps had aging parents you were caring for, multiple other things, throw in a pandemic, the most recent graduates. And so life is not easy. And these guys often haven't studied for a very long time. So they're trying to get their head around all sorts of things. And we've got many challenges at, in the tertiary education sector. You might have heard of a little thing called AI. That's throwing everything out for us as well at the moment. So anyway, they look very joyous, and they are at this stage because they've been on a really, really taxing journey to get there. Oops. Seem to have gone to someone else's. Oh, okay. All right, so here's a bit about the Master of Disability Studies. So it's conferred through Macquarie School of Education within the Faculty of Arts, Macquarie University, and we have an affiliation. So my organisation and Macquarie University have come to an agreement that Next Sense provides all the academic staff for the program, but the students come out with a degree from Macquarie University. So that's what all that fancy writing means. And within our program, we have 3 specialisations. So we are teaching into the field of sensory disability. So our first specialisation is in blindness, low vision, which I'm going to chat with you about today. The other is in deafness, hard of hearing. And the third one is a general qualification in sensory disability. Now, we do take education in blindness and low vision and deafness, hard of hearing very seriously, but at the moment, there's no formal qualification for allied health professionals in this field. So we offer this specialisation as a foundation in both blindness, low vision and deafness, hard of hearing. So education's really got its act together, and we heard some great stuff just from Natalie then that gives us a basis for inclusion. But in the field of allied health, and there's a lot of allied health professionals that work in blindness and low vision, there really aren't good formal qualifications. So we're trying to do something about that. So I'm going to talk to you about the blindness, low vision specialisation. So our applicants apply through Macquarie University, and I was really pleased to hear about Olivia's experience of university being positive. Unfortunately, the systems at our university are not very accessible. And I've had a couple of blind students contact me and say, well, you know what, Sue, I would have done your degree, but guess what? I couldn't apply. So if I can't apply, that doesn't look great for my experience. So sadly, we've lost people to our program because of that. We're trying to work with the university as hard as we can, but if you ever try and change something in a university, you'll know how difficult that can be. Okay, so to come into our degree, we ask that people have a teaching qualification. So we're not teaching people how to teach. We need you to have that on board already. What we want to do is teach you how to be a specialist teacher in blindness and low vision. And we also ask that you have 2 years of teaching experience. So that doesn't have to be continuous. We'll add up all the months of teaching that you've done and make sure that it equates to 2 years. So we need people to have a qualification, and we need them to have some experience as well. And an important point at the bottom, we really welcome applicants from students who have sensory disability themselves. So we have quite a few students who are deaf going through our program. We have 2 students at the moment with low vision that are going to go on and be qualified specialist teachers. And they're fantastic people to teach students within our systems. So here's a bit about the course in case you're wondering, oh gosh, if I want to do this master's program, Sue, what will I learn? So let's work our way through that. So first of all, the program is online on demand, and that suits people's needs quite nicely because it means they can study on their own time. What we do miss out on, though, is that face-to-face connection. And we were talking about that this morning, how important it is for some people to learn with peers around them. So we work hard at trying to create an online community if we can. So the master's program has 8 subjects, so 7 of them are online, but we do require our students to go into the field and work in schools and do a 16-day supervised prac. And within that, they're working with a qualified specialist teacher, and they're learning and displaying their skills as a beginning specialist teacher. And they've obviously got to meet certain criteria to get through. So here's what people study when they come into this degree. We teach in foundations in low vision and blindness, and I have my colleague Pip Miller, who's with us today, who's just up the back there, who teaches into this unit. So Pip's starting out an academic career with us, which is wonderful. So this is all about eye disease. You know, what does it mean for someone if they have a diagnosis? What's the diagnostic journey like? What's the impact of the eye disease? What's the impact of the other conditions the person might have? Of course, we need to focus on literacy and educational adjustments. We have a unit on assistive technology, which Pip also teaches. We do a unit on orientation and mobility for educators, which is a very basic unit, but it gets certainly helps out for the school environment. And of course, we have a unit on inclusion and collaboration, which are the broad principles, some of the things that Natalie spoke about this morning. We have a unit that the students love to hate on research. So how do you do research? And that means a lot of numbers, and a lot of our students don't like numbers. So we get through that one. And then we also have our practicum where they go out and do their 16 days worth of supervised experience in a school. And a little bit about our academic staff. So anyone that teaches into our program has a higher degree relevant to the field. Most of our academic staff hold PhDs. And we hold our heads high that they are leaders in the field in areas of the profession and also in research. So we try and pick the best people that we possibly can to be teaching. And we're in what's called a conjoint position with Macquarie University. So for all intents and purposes, we're just like typical academic staff at a university. Okay, so I've been asked to talk about inclusion today, so I've got to put my money where my mouth is. So this is how we try and embed inclusion into our program. And on the screen at the moment is one of our gorgeous kids who's using a CCTV to access some literacy. So first of all, our approach to inclusion. All our units are fully accessible for students who have low vision or who are blind. So I mentioned to you that we have several students each year with low vision and occasionally someone who's blind who will come through our program. So there's no point in us trying to teach them if it's not accessible. So everything we develop is accessible right from the start. And we think that that's a good teaching practice as well, because we are showing our student teachers all the time, how do you make things accessible? And we've talked a lot about that this morning. All our speakers referred to that. Don't block me out, give me access. You do that and I'm good to go. So we practice that within our program as well. And we have accessibility checks done on all our learning materials. So all of our online materials are accessible, everything. If we conduct a Zoom session with our students, we make sure that that's fully accessible. And certainly for our deaf students, we have Auslan interpreters present, we have captioning. We invest a lot of money into that side of our program. We also require in our blindness low vision specialisation that anytime a student submits an assignment, that it must be in an accessible format as well. And if it's not, guess what? They lose marks. Big loss of marks. So we expect our students to mirror accessibility back to us in their work. Because let's face it, they can't learn about accessibility when they start working as a specialist teacher. They need to leave us with those skills ready to go. So that's one way we embed inclusion in our program. Another way that we embed inclusion in our program is that we require for our students to be able to demonstrate foundational Braille competency by the time they leave us. So they can't just leave us and say, oh, I'm just going to work with low vision students who don't use Braille. I'm not going to work with blind students. No, it doesn't work like that. So we expect them to have competency in Braille. And we do this through completion of the Unified English Braille Code online. You've heard of UEB Online. If anyone wants to learn Braille online, there is a facility to do that. And we expect our students to show a high level of competency in the literacy and mathematics modules. So they can't leave us if they haven't passed those. And we also, another way that we embed inclusion is, I mentioned our students have to do a supervised practicum of 16 days, actually working in schools. And they work with students who have low vision and who are blind. And so we make sure that we're trying to get our students exposed to the diversity of this population in low vision and blindness. And we use, have you heard of an organisation called SPEVI? So SPEVI is the South Pacific Educators in Vision Impairment, and it's the peak body representing mainly educators in Australia. They have a wonderful set of professional standards and what they call elaborations, which describes how the typical teacher has to change their practice to be a specialist teacher in blindness and low vision. So our curriculum is developed around those elaborations. And we're kept very much accountable by this peak body to make sure that our curriculum is aligning and we're teaching our students the right thing. And we often have the president of SPEVI on our academic staff. So it's only a very small field, so we don't get away with anything. We're very accountable to them, which is a good thing. Okay, so that's about where I might finish up, Michael, if that's okay. If you really want to come and do our master's program, there's an email address you can contact us at, and I'll be around today to chat about Next Sense in general, and also if you want any information on the program.
And you'll be at these chairs.
And I'll be back here in a minute. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Right. So our next speaker is someone who's already been mentioned in one of the earlier speeches today, Jacqui Donnelly. She works as vision impairment specialist. She has over 25 years experience teaching children with vision impairment and additional disabilities. Jacqui equips students and their teachers with strategies to overcome the challenges in making educational materials accessible and meaningful. Over to you, Jacqui.
Hi, everyone. Okay, I have 5 points and 5 minutes. Am I audible, first of all? Excellent. Okay. So 5 thoughts about inclusion. My first one is the DDA and the DSE, Disability Discrimination Act, and Disability Standards for Education. I work in a school context, and I would say if you are in a similar situation, make sure that everybody there knows what the DDA and the DSE is and what it means for them in terms of inclusion. I think a lot of people strive for inclusion out of the goodness of their hearts, and that's a good and beautiful thing, especially when it works. But inevitably, people will have a bad or a busy day, and they need to know the legal underpinnings of what they're doing and that it still counts. It's still an obligation, particularly the phrase that Natalie mentioned, on the same basis as their peers. That's really key. So that's the first thing. The second one is UDL, Universal Design for Learning, and other people have talked a little bit about this as well. So instead of always retrofitting accessibility to learning experiences and to assessments, design them from the beginning as inclusive for as many as possible. There will always be some tweaks that you need to make, and that's okay. We can do that. But if you build it from the ground up, with accessibility in mind for a range of student abilities and diversities, you're well on your way. It's a very powerful, but I think an underutilised tool for inclusion, and it's far superior to retrofitting anything. The third thing, and it's alphabet soup really, isn't it? The ECC, so the Expanded Core Curriculum, which again, Natalie went through briefly. That's fundamentally important for all of our students. I would argue that it's also important for the sighted cohort as well. So for our students, absolutely, it's not negotiable. It's never too early. Braille literacy, graphicacy tech, the abacus, sonification, sports skills, all of that. But But also be mindful that a lot of the skills we're teaching our students have currency for their peers. And also sometimes it's kind of cool. Sometimes the tech is appealing just in its own right. But also at some point, I think with every student I've ever worked with, a friend of theirs or someone in their class will say, how did you do that on the computer? Can I do that on mine? And so things like having a tech club or a typing club or a braille club or an abacus club, when you have opportunity, do a myriad of things and have benefits for our students, but also for their peers. Socially, it works wonders. The insight that the sighted kids gain is really quite profound. And they learn good skills, usable skills in the classroom and for life outside school. Fourth thing is to always be preparing for the next environment. So as we all know, there's a lot of extra stuff that we need to teach our students to do with their vision impairment, those compensatory skills particularly. And I would want to stress two things. Absolutely celebrate the achievements. Don't gloss over those in the race to start working on the next thing. Those skills are hard won, but never stop preparing for the next environment. It's coming up to the end of the year. Everyone's going up a grade. There will be more work. There will be less time. There might be less space for storage. So start planning for what is needed and for teaching those skills. And in the time that is less available and more pressured in the new academic year, whatever has already been learned is a head start that will hold the students in good stead. And my last one is one for the students. So I don't know if this might be a little bit controversial, but we'll see what happens. And that's self-advocacy and social skills. And I say that because as a teacher, there is only so much I can do. I will talk to the mainstream staff and the executive, and I will do all the professional development and all of the work that I can. But more often than not, it is the student who wins over the staff. So I can talk about the law and I can talk about the frameworks and all of that, and I do. That's an important part of my job. But when our students are their delightful and skilled selves, and when they advocate politely but assertively, and when they engage with their educators in an age-appropriate way, again and again, I see all the things that these people have been taught, all the things that I've said, all the things that they've read, just coming together beautifully. And that's often what makes a key difference in terms of their willingness to go the extra mile and include the student. And I hear a lot from students who've gone to university that because the structures are a little bit different and different unis vary and it changes over time, but when a student has, and Olivia talked beautifully about this, of course, but when a student goes in and knows how to make contact, knows how to present what they need, and is articulate and personable, it works a lot better. And I think, we've done our job if our students can leave school and then thrive in the next environment. Over to Cathie. Thank you.
Right, last but not least, Cathie Wiltshire. Cathie is an experienced orthoptist. She's worked extensively with children, families and adults across clinics, private practices, low vision organisations and the higher education sector. She currently works as a vision consultant. She remotely teaches Braille and Braille music and supporting children and families with vision impairment and additional disabilities and complex needs. Through Braille Music, Cathie became involved with the National Braille Music Camp and is now the National Braille Music Camp Coordinator, in brackets volunteer, which I suspect means she doesn't get any money, right, including taking unpaid leave. Over to you, Cathie.
Thank you. What was Sue saying about we do it because we love it? We don't do it because there's a lot of money in it. I have worn many, many hats in my 30+ years as an orthoptist. Oh, sorry. One of them actually I'm realizing how long ago it was with Safe Site. I went on maternity leave 25 years ago from Safe Site, and I'm thinking it's been so long. So it's nice to be back Safe Siting again. I'm going to step away from education. I don't claim to have a formal education background. It's always been clinical. It's been orthoptics. It's been clinical based with whatever I've done. But I'm going to step sideways and go put my music camp hat on, and say inclusion is amazing, and everything that everyone's talking about is really, really important. What we heard about this morning was different groups and being included in different areas of school. I think it's incredibly important for our VI kids to have, and adults, to have an interest, a hobby, whether it's music, sport, craft, something that's not academic, something that you can go and do something different, and you can do it with different people. So if you think about if you're involved in anything else, when I think about music camp, there are a whole bunch of kids that are thrown together because of their love of music, not Braille music camp is because they're blind, but we'll come to that. But if you go into any school or a community organisation, you've got a group of people that are together because of that shared interest, not because they're best friends and they live next to each other or they've been best friends forever. So you get a really, really different cohort. You get different ages, you've got different social groups, you get mentors of different ages. And I'm thinking now specifically with music, our Braille music camp, while it's a very small group, we have about 30 blind or vision impaired kids, about 20 blind or vision impaired staff. Those of us that are sighted are in the minority, and we're there to facilitate and help. We are not there to run it, although sometimes it feels a little bit different. But anyway, we're a 7-day, 24/7 camp. We're residential down at Mittagong, and those kids have mentors for life from that. They have friends for life. One of our students last year is an exceptional musician, an exceptional student, had no idea that he had the talent to get to the conservatorium. His teachers at school had been telling him, but it wasn't until at camp we all went to him, so when are you applying? And he said, oh, I'm not good enough. And we all went, sorry. And we helped him apply, and he's in, and he's having an absolute amazing time and running rings around the lecturers at the moment. But that came about because his peer group within the Braille music group helped support him through that. The other thing about any camps or anything that do with interests, what we notice at Braille music camp, and I was speaking to Rajan earlier, is the stuff that doesn't really get talked about. How do you go organising your room when you're at camp and you're not there and you've got clothes for days? Where do you put your dirty clothes? Where do you put your clean ones? How do you find your stuff to go in the shower? How do you clean your teeth and know you haven't missed the sink? And let me tell you, charcoal toothpaste, it's not a great idea with blind and VI kids because the sinks are absolutely filthy afterwards. But anyway, how do they get themselves to class in the morning for theory, for choir? We don't. Yes, we supervise them. Yes, we wake them up. We do that sort of thing, but we don't step them through every single, 5 minutes, come on, you've got 5 minutes, do your shoes up, do this, do this. We let them be as independent as we can. And if they need help, it's the older kids or the blind staff that actually do it, and mentor them and say, well, this is how I did it when I was young. Or this is how we do things. Hygiene in the shower, all sorts of things, particularly the girls. Personal hygiene is really something that, as a sighted person, it's really difficult for me to tell a blind 13-year-old how to manage things. So a blind adult who's been through it is a little bit more better placed to help them with that. The other thing that happens after those camps is, and any camp, is that then overlaps and it gives your students something to then go into the mainstream with. So they can then join the school music groups and they've got that confidence that within their own group, they know they can do it. So they can do it with another group. And I have had blind students feel confident enough to go to a sighted residential jazz camp for a week. With a little bit of support, we've made sure they've had what they've needed. We've had music transcribed, but they then felt confident enough to go and do that and be on a level playing field with sighted peers as well. So it's a really important thing, I think, for our blind and VI kids to have an interest. It doesn't have to be music. I'm going to finish with something that's going to may or may not be controversial. It came up in a conversation we had at one of the music camps. Our kids need to know you don't have to be friends with everyone. I think they expect that everyone has to be nice to them. It's what we're telling them. They have to be included. They have to do this. Not everyone has to like you, and you don't have to like everybody. Whether you're blind or sighted, that's the way it goes. What you do have is you absolutely can expect fair accessibility, respect, manners, being polite, but not everybody has to be your best friend. And I think a lot of our vision impaired kids and blind kids, oh, I haven't got any friends, so-and-so's mean to me. You might have a sighted kid right next to you that is going through exactly the same thing. It's not always a blind thing. But I think it's helpful to just let them know that. Anyway.
Oh, rabbit ring. Okay. All right. Everybody, come up, choose your seat, grab your microphone. Here we go. Now's when we interrogate you and you say terrible things you're not meant to say. Yeah. Trouble already. Good. So a lot of people here who do their job because of passion. So we've covered everything from kind of rights, laws, frameworks, approaches, out of school, in school, education, how we get teachers who know what they're doing. To start with, before I go on, any questions off the back of these 4 presentations? Yeah? Okay, let's get it rolling. So I suppose, what is our theme today? Our theme today is about inclusiveness, and that inclusiveness being purposeful towards transitions. And transitions, and in the end, is all about having a happy, successful life, whether it's going through junior school, senior school, tertiary, job. In the end, you want to end up with purpose in your life. So what do you think are the main things, the thing that makes it most likely that someone ends up having a happy life? Like, we've got lots of frameworks, lots of ideals, but what are the fundamentals we've got to get right? I'll start with the easy question, you see. Yeah. Is it about getting the highest mark in the exam? Oh yeah, give it a go. Tap your microphones. Let's see if they're doing.
Am I audible?
Yeah, yes.
I think it's a really good question. And I think it's worth asking that about students who aren't blind or vision impaired. Because if we know the answer for that, then surely we know the answer for our kids, right? So I don't know, we could do a straw poll and see what people think. What is the secret to a happy, meaningful life? We'd probably all have slightly different ideas. But I think if you're the parent of a student who's blind or has a vision impairment, then the parameters you set for your family about your family's purpose and what makes your family operate successfully, that's going to be the case for your child. And likewise, if you have typically sighted children. So I think as a starting point, that's my answer, if that's not dodging it too much. But I would want to say that then full inclusion in those things is hopefully goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, because we know, I mean, we're all here to some extent because we know that it doesn't always work. It's not always easy, and people have views that are very different to us and approaches, and I think for a lot of people, they just haven't thought about it. They do things the way that they do things because that's the way they do them. That's the way somebody taught them to do it. They've done it without any reference to people with vision impairment. And change is difficult. So I think, whatever is your family's or your context's goals, aspirations, apply those. But obviously it happens with the full knowledge that you're going to have some conversations along the way. I think key to everything is that the student knows that they can do it. They may do it differently, but they can do it, and can in terms of permission, for want of a better word, but also can in terms of ability.
A lot of it's attitude and enablement. Question.
They the school as a child who was at school. They have they know where to go to start with.
Yes.
The second question is, how do you then educate the rest of the cohort in the school, children and is about?
Yeah, great questions. So I think that if a student who is vision impaired turned up at a school, schools are very well equipped to know where to find support. So they may not know immediately who is the vision teacher for their area or the assistant principal vision, but all schools are supported by a team around a school, which is, I guess we refer to it as a wheel of support, that whether that be for a assistant principal learning and support, an assistant principal vision, a learning and wellbeing team, student wellbeing support, and there is a contact immediately, a learning and wellbeing officer that the principal can pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I've got a student that turns up. These are the needs of the student. What can you do for me? Who can you link me with? In which case they would link them with the assistant principal vision for that area, and the support could be put in place very, very quickly. Yes. Okay, second question. Could you please remind me?
Kids, how do you educate them?
Yes. So to build capacity, that is one of the critical roles of the vision teacher or the ISTV, is to build the capacity within the school, because the vision, as we all know, the vision teacher is not there all of the time. So it really is the vision teacher initially would do a lot of ongoing professional learning with the whole school to build the capacity of the teachers. But then also it comes down to the student themselves. I'm not sure, my background is I am itinerant support teacher vision, assistant principal vision. So I know that I've worked with students who actually themselves felt confident enough to speak to their peers and their U group about their vision and how that worked for them. Now that may not be the case for everyone. Everyone has different ways that they would like to express their views, but that is an option, as well as the vision teacher building capacity within the schools and the learning support team.
And when I first turned up at school, there was a buddy system with the year 6. Does that sort of happen? Or?
Yes, I think just speaking about all students in cohorts, lots of schools have different buddy systems. Lots of schools have many different things that they can put into place. And if a school doesn't have something already in place, then there's definitely a lot of supports that they are able to access, vision related or other, to put those supports into place.
Make a little comment about your really easy question, Michael. I think we've got another pandemic going on, and I think it's people have lost their way, and this, maybe not everyone in the room, but a lot of us, about our sense of self and our sense of worth. And I deal with a lot of people that are coming into the education sector. I can't do that, Sue. I'm not good enough. Imposter syndrome is raging through many parts of our population at the moment. Why has that happened? Why aren't we good enough? Is it social media? Is it, I don't know what it is, but I just get a sense that there's a lot of that. So, and I think that's through our adolescents, and it's really going into our young children. So I think the mentoring that you guys are doing, I mean, that everybody needs a mentor. Everybody needs that guide. So that'd be one piece of advice. And I don't know how you're going to do that, but I think establishing a sense of self and a sense of worth And you are worthy because you are part of this community. You are worthy because you are part of this society. You are worthy because you are part of this family. Could somehow start to help with some of that. And I think a lot of the systems, whether we're talking about inclusive education, whether we're talking about the expanded core curriculum, a lot of that is about building that identity and sense of self, but also sense of worth, which I think is super important.
Or, yeah.
I agree, because you can make as many inclusion and make as much as accessible as you like, but if you've not got the confidence to go and do it, it's not going to happen. So I think, yeah, two-part thing.
And I think I did a bit of AIing where I came up. Because I remember from, if I've got this right, last year, Sue was saying that somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 kids under 18 who are VI in Australia. According to AI, that's don't know how accurate it is, but there's about 5.8 million kids in Australia who are under 18. So I'm thinking that a lot of VI kids aren't going to just bump into each other unless we have an active role.
Yeah, I'd be very careful with that AI figure because it's well, even Australian Bureau of Statistics is not reliable because of the way they question people. So people might identify as having a vision impairment because they wear glasses. So that number's way, way off, way, way off. But yes, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, go.
Hello. Forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, sorry. For students, I think to be able to mix with other kids with vision impairment and blindness. I mean, in other parts of the world, that's much more built into the educational system. So there are states in America that do this very differently, and I think in a lot of instances very well. And we have to work to achieve that because so often a blind child is the only person in their family and the only person in their school and the only person in their local area and the only person in their church, synagogue, whatever, to have a vision impairment at all. So they are not only figuring out how to do life as a blind person too often without a mentor, but they're also educating everybody around them in how to interact with a person with a vision impairment. And that's a lot. And, you know, other kids don't necessarily have that. So I think that's worth thinking about as well. And yeah, any opportunity to, I remember years ago, we used to get kids in the holidays for a day. You might remember this. And just from all different schools, parents would go and have coffee so they'd be able to talk about their experiences together and network that way. And we would teach the kids some sort of tech skill and a ball sport, whatever, but they would just socialize. And I was working with a student who was incredibly well behaved. She was so good. And she would just come into class, sit down, do her work. She didn't muck around ever. And she was delightful and she was great to teach. But she came into the room, sat next to another student with a vision impairment, and oh my goodness, what happened? But it was brilliant. Suddenly she was, in a lovely way, I have to say, but suddenly the spunk, you know, emerged and just that bit of attitude that I think she needed to get through the day at school. That started to show itself, and her sense of humour and a little bit of pushback. It was fabulous to see it, but I was stunned because I had never, ever, ever seen that side of her in the mainstream school setting, because all of the time she was the last person to know what was going on and she didn't want to stand out. But in a room full of her peers, she relaxed, her sense of humour came out, that spark was there. That had to have done her good. And so I think, yeah, opportunities just to be with people who get it, invaluable.
Speaking of room of her peers, the Braille Music Camp is one of, well, I can name one, instances where I know where the blind community gets together from. So this is what, 30 plus or minus kids flown in from all over Australia and bits of the South Pacific. So what's the difference between one of those kids arriving for the first time when they might be single-digit years old versus a veteran? What happens?
Ask you, Michael, what's the difference between when someone arrives and when we haven't reached double digits yet with yours? Absolutely amazing. The kids, it doesn't take them very long. They can be very, very quiet. They can be very, very shy. 7 nights away from home is huge. I struggle packing 7 nights from home. I know that there's a washing machine there, so I don't have a problem. And we accept them from, in general, as age 9. I think 9, get on a plane. We usually have someone accompanying them on a plane. There's always someone. You get to Sydney, then we put you on a bus for an hour and a half, and we get to Mittagong in the middle of winter. It's absolutely freezing, and often wet. And we're going to
Really selling this camp to us, Kath.
love it. It's the best part of the year.
Jem says that the food is excellent.
And then we sort of throw you in and go, here's a room, and there are always mixed rooms with other students. They're not individual rooms. It's a boarding school. And the new kids are kind of like, oh, they've sort of gone through this bus trip and, they didn't know anybody else, or they were with some friends from school, but they didn't know anyone else. They're from their own state. And it takes probably about half a day, I think. And they're going, wow, I'm not the only one that bumps into something. I'm not the only one who doesn't know where this is. And if I ask, it doesn't really matter. They tend to get a little bit off-put sometimes when they realise that some of us are actually sighted. And they go, oh, someone's watching me. And I go, don't worry about it. And that sort of gets lost very quickly. It's the blind staff that run the tute groups. It's the blind staff do everything. We call them the blindies very, very fondly. The kitchen staff at the school are amazing. The kids are as independent as they possibly can be at the dining hall. And within, I would say, a day, half a day to a day, you've got a bunch of kids that are instantly, going to stay in touch for the rest of their high school years at least. And then on to our staff have all been kids there previously. As a general rule, our blind staff have all been kids. We actually had marriage, we've had a baby. We've had a few that have passed away, but it is a real community, and the kids keep in touch after camp, and it is their highlight. They look forward to coming back because if they bump canes, it doesn't matter. We go exploring. I must admit, I haven't ever been brave enough to go on exploring. One of our blind staff takes them exploring away from where we're supposed to be. The school are very good. They mark off the barriers. They put sort of ropes around, and if you're feeling the rope, you don't go the other side of the rope. He takes you the other side of the rope. And there's one blind staff member, and it's like the Pied Piper with 10, 12, 18 kids. We usually send one-sided staff member with them at least. And they go and explore all sorts of areas. They get to an oval, drop the canes, and you just run because it really doesn't matter. They can be free. They can do anything. And the kids absolutely love it. It's beautiful to watch. And then I sit in some school meetings for some of the students that I teach there and that I know, and they go, oh, they don't do anything and they're not capable of doing this. And can they go on the school camp? Can they manage? And they went, absolutely, they can manage. Just give them the confidence to do it. And if they can do it at camp, they can do it at sighted camp. But it's huge. I don't know what difference you've noticed with Jem, but
Jen
each
certainly
year we
started using iPhones and Siri and taking control, cooking, independent,
Yep.
showering, toileting, dressing, took over control. So in the spirit of inclusion then, so we talk a lot about inclusion in the community of the school or the university or the sighted environment. But here we've heard about the community, the VI community. So I suppose the question, especially for the left-hand side here, is from the perspective of educators, whether in system or who are expanding their education, how do they get to know and be included in the VI community? How much do our educators know and have the opportunity to really know the community of the VI world?
Thanks for another really good question, Michael. One of the joys that I get from working with educators is they're the most authentic, honest people around. They don't have any tickets on themselves at all. They're learning all the time and they want to learn all the time. They never think they know enough. They're very humble people. And the reason I'm saying that is that they have an open mind to trying to understand. How do we as sighted people understand the non-visual world? I often feel like a fraud when I'm showing a simulation of something. Olivia's artwork made me feel a little bit better because, okay, maybe I've shown some images that kind of look what it looks like for people that have low vision. But you're right, Michael, how do we do that? So I think what our educators do, because they're in the thick of it and they're problem solving all the time, and listen to Jacqui talk today. Jacqui's an incredible educator. Any student that she works with would be lucky, and she won't like me saying that, but she is. She's insightful. And she's learning all the time. So I think the inherent qualities in our educators, and I'm not responsible for that. That's their personalities, the attributes that they have. They never think that they know enough. They are constantly trying to understand the community of students that they work with, and they are learning constantly. And there's something you've probably all heard before, but it really rings true in this situation. If you've met one blind or vision impaired person, you've only met one, because they're the most diverse group of people. What they want from life, how they want help, what help they want. So we can't afford to make any assumptions at all in support that we provide. So that was a long-winded answer, but I feel so hopeful with the approach that our educators take continuously, that they're learning all the time, but they're prepared to learn as well. And then they store up all that learning, so the next time they work with someone, the experience is richer for them and for that person. I take my hat off to our educators. I think they're remarkable, and I really enjoy working with them all the time. And they've taught me a huge amount. Give you a little example. My PhD was around a statement an educator meant to me. An educator shared with me very early, and when I started working in low vision, I'd worked in a clinical environment for a very long time. I worked with Professor Grigg up the back there for a very long time. We used to work at the Children's Hospital at Westmead, and one of my colleagues came in when I first started working at Next Sense, which was Royal Institute for Deaf and Blind Children then, and she came in with an eye report and she said, "Can you tell me what this student can see?" And I thought, it's a bit of a strange question. So we went through all the eye report and what all the visual acuity meant and the visual fields and all the clinical results. And I thought I'd done a really crack-hot job of explaining it to her. And we got to the end of it and she said, "You still haven't told me what they can see, Sue." Yeah, you're right. So that was kind of what my PhD was around. And I still can't tell you what they can see, by the way, at the end of that. But I hold out hope, and I think our educators are very inquiring people, and they do their darndest to understand. And I jumped in to answer that because probably our educators would be too humble to give that response. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Much of our program is a serving suggestion, and I'm a 2 or 3 bay leaf person. We've probably reached 3 bay leaves. So let's do one more question, then we'll.
So I have a daughter who is year 2 now in the Waverley Public School. So from my perspective, as I just wanted to ask you, because my daughter is going to public school, and I actually found a bit of challenging in terms of inclusive education in the school. That's because the mainstream teachers, classroom teachers, also teachers' aides, they often do not understand the needs of my daughters. So of course there's a vision teachers, they've been doing brilliant work. But then for me, they are kind of like my mentor as well, because they teach me, and also my daughter learn a lot. But the problem is that, because how can I say, principal and also mainstream teachers, they don't really understand about all inclusion for the children with blind, and it doesn't necessarily they actually receive training. As a result, while vision teacher understand everything what she needs, but they are actually going to the school dispatched by temp vision school. They're always kind of in the middle. So when I try to approach to vision teachers, vision teacher often tells me that they are not employed by the school. So as a result, I have to talk to the classroom teacher, and then classroom teacher actually do not get education for the children with blind. So I'm actually kind of struggling all the time. And I'm just wondering, like, how do I say, from education of department for vision team, do you actually provide any educational training program for teachers for, the school? Because teachers do not get training, and then principal don't understand, and then most of the teachers in the school do not have any experience, and I'm kind of going circle around. And when it comes to the vision teachers, so they don't really have authorization to tell them what to do. So I actually feel that I'm always in trap. I hope it makes sense.
So
You- I don't
do
know.
the actual teachers, the mainstream teachers, get educated?
I can add a little bit onto that. Not talking about Jem, because Jem has wonderful support, but our eldest child is hearing impaired. And I do know that when she first started school, she used to go to RIDBC. Her teachers, before term started, would go to RIDBC and do a 2 or 3 day course there on hearing impairment and what that was like for an average hearing impaired child, because you've met one deaf child doesn't mean you've met them all, and Pip is very, very unique. But they had that grounding before they then went and met Pip, and then they kind of worked with Pip through that. I think that stopped when Pip was in year 2, and she's now in year 9. And so I do feel what Kanai is saying, because we've had that experience, not with Jem, but with Pip, where she did have that support from RIDBC. And it wasn't 100%, didn't get the teachers all the way there, but it got them far enough to then talk to the student and learn more of the student. But that's missing. Is that what you're feeling?
Yeah. So I'm really grateful whatever my daughter received from vision teachers, and I have any complaints. I'm really grateful, thanks to them. But the thing is school doesn't necessarily understand what she needs completely. Like almost over a year, nearly 2 years audio description for the movie in the hall was missing, no matter how many times I speak to them. So this is just an example. Even the vision teacher talked, it was same result. And as a result, I actually always feel that those teachers who works for the school, they don't really understand what she really needs as a child with blind. And I really think it's really essential for teachers to understand what she needs, or what children who are blind or low vision needs. So, and that's why I was just wondering, because I always feel the gap. Yes, of course, it increases with education is important, of course, but the thing is there's always those gaps.
So what if any training?
Please, like, he's got a younger daughter probably, and mine are already one in high school, one finished high school. And I find it gets more complex in high school for teachers, especially when they're going from classroom to classroom in different subjects. All of a sudden in year 7, instead of dealing with one teacher for primary class where she gets to know the child, they're not moving from classrooms. In high school, you have like at least 7 to 8 people. And it's harder to educate each teacher in every stage, like year 7, year 8, and 9. There's so many teachers in every level, and I can relate to this, where the vision teacher is doing a great job, but when she's not there in that classroom, how are the other teachers accommodating for the child with the vision impairment.
So how do we include the mainstream teachers as opposed to the specialists who come in?
Okay. So in the Department of Education, from a system perspective, as I mentioned before, there are a number of policies that schools must follow. There's the inclusive education policy for students with disability. There's the inclusive education statement. There's the disability standards for education. And every school has a legal obligation to provide reasonable adjustments for their students. Now, I can't sit here and say that every school is at the same point on their inclusive education journey. Some schools, would have, there's examples of best practice. There's other schools where we know that areas can be strengthened. There is definitely system level professional learning for all teachers, whether they be mainstream teachers, support teachers, or specialist teachers, in providing those adjustments, not necessarily around, because as you would acknowledge, there's a large, gamut of adjustments that can be provided for a student. But for a student specifically with vision impairment, then the adjustments, the school's capacity should be built from the vision teacher that's coming into the school or the assistant principal vision.
Can, I suppose, the parent or the mainstream teacher themselves ask for some form of induction or training or?
Yeah, so I guess the education of the student is a collaborative approach. As I mentioned before with the principles of inclusive practice, that it should be around the school and the parent, carer and families, and those adjustments should be reviewed regularly. I'm happy to talk to both families offline if they have specific issues with their actual schools. But in terms of professional learning, there is definitely system level professional learning in regards to providing reasonable adjustments so that students can access their schooling on the same basis as their peers.
I just jump in about that training. You were asking about the training through RIDBC, now Next Sense. So we do run training for SLSOs, and also we have a day of what's school learning support officer, so teacher aides. Yep. So we run a program over a couple of months for teacher aides, and often they'll be supported to go through that program as part of the planning for a child to start at the school. So we hope that we get ahead of that child entering the school. We also run days in both blindness, low vision, deafness, hard of hearing, what we call the mainstream classroom teacher days, where we try and expose them to as many opportunities as we can.
How does that structured?
It's only a day. So we have speakers, we have all sorts of our staff here and previous staff have, I'm sure Pip participated, Jacqui would have participated, our other Pip, probably Cathie as well. So we have all sorts of displays, we have large print braille, we have the other organisations invited to come as well. So Quantum comes.
Yeah.
It usually is at the start of the year, yes. So the professional development's continuous. It's never enough. I get it. It's never enough, but there is some that's available, which we do work really closely with Department of Education, and they are a huge user of our professional development opportunities as well. They put a lot of their staff through.
So our options are available there.
Options are available. That's really great. But the problem is probably school doesn't know. Even braille teacher actually try to explain. The reality is there's no authority much. So I'm not saying only for my daughter. Basically, I had those type of story from lots of parents. So as a result, I think if there is a course available, training available for teachers, it'll be really great for systematically needs to be bit of change. Rather, we request vision teacher or top teacher, principal to push. Rather, maybe when there is an introduction for the children comes to the school in the beginning, maybe it'll be great if you can kindly talk to, there's can be system that talk to the principal. Okay, well, to support these children, this child, the staff needs to get trained. And then, additionally that the SLSO always changes. It's not only staying with the same child all the time. So which means if just one, SLSO get training, doesn't necessarily she's always following, the kids with blind. That's another issue too. So I think the systematically, the way of approach to school needs to be a bit modified. That's how I feel. So then they can actually access to the training. They can actually access to whatever they need to get, because the reality is that there is always gap. And then from the right beginning of that child to start going to the school, it's very important for the principal and the school teacher to try to support the child rather than in few years later realizing we don't know nothing.
I just want to, because I have a feeling we're preaching to the converted. I have a feeling everyone here would totally 100% agree with you. I think what happened, so can I just ask the gentleman in the pink shirt, his granddaughter, when your granddaughter went, did you feel that the teachers that met your granddaughter had undergone what Sue said is available for them to go to?
My granddaughter's not visually impaired, just making the point about a buddy system at school.
Okay, so the lovely lady over here, when your daughters go to school, did you feel any of their 7 or 8 teachers had attended the opportunity that Sue's course had? No.
I remember that, but they were very open, and the vision itinerant support teacher did educate and told everyone about my son's condition.
Yeah, that's...
Yes.
To go and sit in a meeting, and all the year 7 teachers were there.
Yeah.
We spoke about our son and our expectation.
Yes.
So they were very accommodating.
So, but that's the school. Yeah.
Can I just interject? I'm an assistant principal vision and I work in the far south coast.
Yeah.
STVs.
Oh, I know we've blown the timeline, everybody, but this is good. Yes.
We always in-service the whole staff. So
Yes.
we'll go into a high school, all the staff that are involved with that student, we will in-service them. And we follow up. Every time we're there, we're following up, making sure that things are in place.
Yeah. So I think you need to talk to your school and just say, Sue's got a course. You need to send all your
Maybe
teachers there.
up to principal.
So I think we can wrap up because we've got to wrap up time, but there is training available. It is open. They welcome both in-class assistants, SSO, and they welcome mainstream teachers. It's not just for VIs. So it sounds like a blowtorch needs to be gently applied to the school to get on board.
I think the other thing is that we're always looking for opportunities for professional learning, so that as a collective from today, there could be an approach made to look at the program that we offer now, which is very short. I can't defend it. It's a good program, but it's short. And it's not meeting everybody's needs. So maybe there's another way around this. Maybe there's some sort of course that travels with the child. I don't know. I mean, that would be handy, wouldn't it?
We do always suggest that they sit offer, but at the end of the day, it's the school's decision as to whether they are prepared to lose that teacher for a day and pay for that course. It's not our decision.
Yeah.
So that's important. So the school principal or deputy, someone in the hierarchy, can decide to send a teacher. Okay, so we've blown our time by a long way. Fine. I think this was worthwhile. We've had a little lighter that's lit at a fuse. Maybe that fuse has been lit and a few conversations may happen over liquid. Maybe not. But I would like to say thank you, all of you, for provoking, for being thought-provoking, for sharing real insights, for participating in a very real conversation. I very much appreciate it. Could we all say thank you and express our thanks? The VI community, nobody got paid. Thanks, guys. Now,